I'm Francis Navarez, um, an international studies student at Liceo de Cagayan University. For this video, I'll be sharing my experience and reflections on some of the short films I watched during the Cine de Oro Film Festival. During the Cine de Oro Film Festival, we watched two of the short films which is the Tanya, directed by Mr. Joe Bacchus, which is also our professor, and Ang Pagputol, directed by Ella Figura. And earlier, I also watched The End of War, also directed by our professor, Mr. Joe Bacchus. Okay, let's start with the first one, which is Tanya, directed by Mr. Joe Bacchus. Honestly, at first, I found the film quite boring and feel too artsy for me. And in the first 2 minutes, I think, we mostly saw some local places, some unusual pop colors, and a man walking around. I mean, there wasn't much dialogue or some explanations of what was happening. But when the ending was revealed, and it was revealed that the man was actually a survivor of a disaster happened, and he had also lost his wife. Personally, I had difficulty connecting with the story because the meaning was revealed so late, and at that same time, that also what made me reflect on how people experience grief. Sometimes someone can simply walk around and continue living normally while carrying an experience that we know nothing about. For the second film we watched is the Ang Pagputol, directed by Ella Figura. So in this film, it was very different because it follows a young woman who lives with a very strict parents. Even though she is already in her 20s, her parents still control her relationships or even her life. And when the story continues, it discovered that there was something much darker happening. The most brutal, or more likely like disturbing part, was she doesn't even remember what she did, including killing her own parents. For me, this film was much easier to follow because the conflict became more intense as the story continues. What I found interesting was how the film connected to the family conflicts and with the supernatural beliefs. The curse wasn't just used to create horror, it also became a way of representing something that the characters couldn't easily understand. Compare this film to the Tanya, it was very much more direct in creating tension. It wanted the audience to feel fear and uncertainty. And I think the film succeeded in doing that. Lastly, to the last film that I watched, which is The End of War, that is also directed by Professor Joe Bacchus. So this film presents the perspective of a family that is something poor, caught in the middle of a conflict between the military forces or maybe those rebellious or NPA groups, something like that. And what makes this story more painful is that the family isn't presented as the part of conflict. They're just the civilians who is trying to survive. The film becomes much more than just a story about war. shows how ordinary people often suffer the consequences of conflicts that they didn't even create. I also found that the family's perspective important because it reminds us that war is not simply about opposing sides, soldiers, or politics. There are families and communities living in these areas who have to deal with the consequences. And the last scene caught me. There was a quote at the end. It says, "Only the dead have seen the end of war." By Plato. That line made the ending even more powerful. That war doesn't really have a simple ending for the people who experience it. Even when the fighting stops, the people who survive still have to live with what happened. Looking back at all three films, I realized that they use very different method to tell their stories. The Tanya uses some slow pacing to communicate grief. The Ang Pagputol uses horror and supernatural beliefs to explore the family conflicts, the fear, and lastly, the end of war uses some tragedy and realism to show the human cost of the war or the armed conflict. My personal reactions to the film were different. I was confused by Tanya, found the Apagputol intense, and the end of war was probably the one that affected me most emotionally. But I think that's also the point of watching different films. And for me, these films ultimately show that behind disasters, curses, or even war, there are always people who are simply trying to live, love, and hope for a better life. So that's all, guys.